to Hatful of Hollow, the review. Might be my favorite record ever. The Smiths' second release, I believe. The compilation, 1984, and it's basically just, which is a genius idea, which other groups have done before, but basically taking their first record, which is somewhat unrefined. It's still, I mean, there are some unrefined tracks here, like You Don't Owe Me Anything, and songs like What Difference Does It Make definitely felt like there was more there than the original mix and recording, whereas on Hatful of Hollow, it's songs like that absolutely stick out and amaze in this compilations format. So what I think this album really gets right, as opposed to the Smiths' debut self-titled, is that the mixes seem a lot more consistent, and in some ways they're raw, like on songs like This Charming Man, the new release, and in some ways they're less sort of stingy, like the guitar licks are less synth-like, I think, on this record. And perhaps there's a little less flavor in that. Listening to the self-titled, there's a lot of amazing sort of vocal riffs, and it feels more natural maybe. But in this, it's slightly more refined, for better or for worse, but definitely the track list is more ironed out, is more solid, and every track here, it doesn't feel like just a throwaway. Like sometimes nowadays, an artist will put on a hit from like not even a year before the release of the record, even though it wasn't considered a teaser, on a record that really could use that song. Like it's not like, oh, this makes no sense being here, and then it's like, oh, this is like trash. But I guess that's how fast music moves nowadays. But now they literally like This Charming Man, What Difference Does It Make, Reel Around the Fountain, Hand in Glove, Still Ill. All these are some of my favorites. Still Ill especially, I think, is much more interesting with the intro, the harmonica intro, and I think the delivery is more energetic. It feels like a brand new song, honestly, every time. Every sort of rehashing of the old tracks. And then, of course, they have the new tracks, which are absolutely amazing. My favorites being William, It Was Really Nothing, Accept Yourself, Back at the Old House, and Please, 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 Let Me Get What I Want. And How Soon Is Now, which is, there's literally all the new tracks are great. How Soon Is Now is not my favorite, but I can see why it's like basically heralded as their best song. Amazing, sort of entrancing, crazy mix on the guitar, woozy, and the writing is amazing. It's characteristically clever, self-aware, sort of ridiculous, and the delivery is top-notch on this too. On that one too, How Soon Is Now. But the ones I want to focus on, Accept Yourself. This, in some ways, is the blandest sort of instrumentation. Johnny Marr is laid back on this one. It's energetic, but it's not too much, like the riffs you hear on Charming Man or How Soon Is Now. It's sort of laid back, but the writing is absolutely, I think, Morrissey at his best, and most pop, and sort of most like all-encompassing appeal. Like there's really no narcissistic, mopey, like all the reasons why people hate the Smiths aren't here really, even though I love those parts of the Smiths. But I think Accept Yourself is a song that anyone can enjoy, even if you hate the Smiths, sort of what they stand for, which can be kind of polarizing, their form of writing and sound. But Accept Yourself is just every day. You must think, how do you feel about your life? When will you accept yourself? It's very cleverly written and not complicated. Anyone can relate. And the cadence is somewhat simple, and so is the instrumentation, but it's still a great song. The next one, William, It Was Really Nothing, is just amazing. I love the sort of perspective of, is it a homosexual relationship? Is he speaking from the perspective of the woman? Is he just sort of a friend who is sort of interested in William's life or whatever? It is sort of cryptic. I think it's probably, most people would say it's the homosexual perspective, but he plays with it, of course, with amazing lines like, if you like, you can marry me. If you like, you can buy the ring. I don't know, there's a lot of financial reference in relationships. Not too heavily in a lot of the Smiths, but just like little hints at that, like, if you'd like, you can buy the ring. I don't know, there's something so funny about that. And the initial, when the lick comes in, it's absolutely amazing. It just flows in, which they're good at. They do that on a number of songs. But William Is Nothing, super groovy, long-winded chorus, but he delivers a great performance. Next new track, Please Please Me, or Please Let Me Get What I Want. That and How Soon Is Now are the biggest tracks on this album. Please Let Me Get What I Want is, I think, a little bit better. I think it's mixed sort of more pristinely into higher regard than anything else. Ambient with focus on the keyboard licks, which I love, in the center of the song. And also it's uncharacteristically short, which some Smith songs can just be that one idea, like songs like Cemetery Gates maybe could have followed this and sort of extended the Smiths' idea, or Morrissey's writing sort of in this realm of sort of very short songs, because there's only like 2 lines. It's like 3-4 lines, but they're absolutely powerful and are sort of at the heart of his persona or whatever, caricature or whatever you want to call it, where he writes from. His perspective is an amazing song, Please Let Me Get What I Want, last track, and it absolutely closes the track list out, which you can't always say for every Smiths album. Especially the Smiths, the self-titled sort of slows down near the end, which also, this does slow down, Hatful of Hollow, with Back at the Old House. Girl Afraid is one of the weakest tracks, I think. I think it does have an interesting lick and sort of slow opening, and then gets into that lick, and it's absolutely catchy. Johnny Marr does an amazing job. But I think the relationship described is a little too, it's not simple enough to be like, please, please let me get what I want. It's too deliberate, I think, for what he's trying to, he's like literally referencing being from the girls or the boys' perspective, and it's like, I mean, maybe there's something else going on here that I'm not picking up on, but that's, the Girl Afraid is honestly the weakest track, and like the only one I would consider cutting. I still think it needs to be on here because the flow is absolutely amazing. From, you know, the second side, Still Ill, moving into songs Accept Yourself, Back to the Old House, Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now, which is another great one, another fantastic hit, and it's really just hilarious really listening to this character he draws. It's like, it's just unbelievably self-aware and just funny, and just poking fun at himself, his critics, everything. Back at the Old House is another one of my favorites, where Johnny Marr basically takes center stage. I honestly like it better than How Soon Is Now, honestly, which is maybe why I don't like How Soon Is Now as much, even though they aren't totally about the same subject matter. How Soon Is Now is more sort of grand in its scope, of sort of being the Prince of Nothing in particular, and sort of these grand assertions, whereas Back at the Old House is sort of reflecting on a relationship related to a setting, which he doesn't honestly do a lot, but I think he does it to great effect here. But honestly, he could be singing, you know, some of his worst lyricism ever, and it wouldn't matter, because this lick is absolutely catchy, entrancing, cold, uninviting, and absolutely matches his delivery, even though it's not the signature Smith sort of mopey lyrics and baritone delivery with the sort of almost synth-like high-frequency guitar, fast-paced licks. Yeah, essentially there are no weak tracks here. Those are mostly they're Girl Afraid, I wouldn't even say is weak. I think it still belongs there, and it slows down the flow of the record a little bit. And that's what I love about the Smiths. Usually, except for sometimes, like the later tracks of the self-titled, maybe lose flow. a little bit between the tracks. But honestly, the subject matter and the development of, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a narrative of like the characters, like scenarios, because there's a lot of different messages and characters. But yeah, all the rehashes, all the new mixes are great. All the new tracks are, honestly, I love. I mean, I like better than the lulls of the self-titled. I absolutely think this record is better than the self-titled. I think it's a genius idea. They did it again, Louder Than Bombs, which I think I will eventually review in the future. But for now, Hatful of Hollow, you know, we'll stick with this, see the reception. I know this is gonna blow up, it's gonna be on trending. But yeah, I think a great album to listen to at times like this, or at any time. If you're feeling sad, or if you're just looking for advice, accept yourself, or just looking for an interesting perspective of writing songs that is not really explored these days in a lot of the top of the charts like it was in the 80s in the UK. A lot of great things coming out. Yeah, that's my review, Hatful of Hollow. Check it out, definitely. You probably have checked it out, but these are just my thoughts on it. Yeah, see you later.